Hi, I'm Michelle the Irritable Vegan, and today I'm sharing my vegan low FODMAP twist on a classic Christmas curry. I've got many fond memories of tucking into curries on Boxing Day made from the leftover roast veggies. It's a delicious way to use up all your Christmas Day leftovers, but this recipe can also be made from scratch. To keep things festive, I've added some gluten-free, FODMAP-safe, pecan spiced flatbreads. I hope you enjoy it. To begin, I'll show you how I bulk prep my veg ahead of time, either for this curry or for a classic roast dinner. I peel, de-seed and chop all my root veg except for the potatoes. Here I've got thickly sliced carrots, baton parsnips and diced Japanese pumpkin. I also quarter one unwaxed lemon. Place them in sealable containers wrapped in damp kitchen paper or alternatively damp muslin cloths or clean damp tea towels. Cover with well-fitting lids and store in the fridge for up to 24 hours. This frees up quite a bit of time on the day, and I love the feeling of having everything prepped and ready to cook. The veggies store really well this way and look and taste just as good as if they were freshly prepared on the day. I wanted to make this recipe accessible whether you're starting from scratch as I show here or using up leftover veggies. The only veg I don't prep ahead is potatoes, which blacken very quickly, so I peel and dice these on the day just prior to cooking. This recipe serves four, so I begin with 600 grams of white potatoes and add all of the root vegetables and a quartered lemon to a baking tray. For 4 people, I use 300 grams of diced Japanese pumpkin, 300 grams of baton parsnips and 300 grams of thickly diced carrots. I don't have a tray big enough for all these quantities, so I shared everything out between 2 trays so they can roast evenly in a single layer. Drizzle over 1 tablespoon of oil, a generous grind of salt and pepper, 1 stock cube and 1 teaspoon of curry powder. Brush the marinade thoroughly into the veg and roast for 15 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. Whilst the veg roasts, we'll peel and prep the fresh tomatoes. Cut a shallow cross into the top of each tomato, and I use 500 grams of common vine tomatoes in total. Place the tomatoes in a container that holds them firmly upright and cover them with boiling water, then set aside for 3 minutes. After the first 15 minutes of roasting time, flip the veg and turn the tray 180 degrees. If you're using 2 trays like me, you'll also need to swap them around, so the tray from underneath moves to the top and vice versa. After 3 minutes of soaking, drain the tomatoes and plunge them into cold running water for a few minutes until they're cool to the touch. Once they're cool enough to handle, find the edges of the criss-cross cuts that you made and gently peel the skin away from the tomatoes. It should peel away really easily. I do this because I don't like the texture of the skin once it's cooked and it comes away from the flesh. If you don't mind it, then you can skip this step and just go straight to dicing the tomatoes. After 30 minutes, the vegetables should be just cooked but not overly browned or mushy. This is perfect because they'll continue to cook in the curry. To a deep pot on medium heat, add 1 tablespoon of garlic oil, 1 whole cinnamon stick, 4 cardamom pods, 1 star anise, 3 whole cloves, half a teaspoon of whole cumin seeds, half a teaspoon of crushed fennel seeds, half a teaspoon of crushed coriander seeds, 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric and 1 teaspoon of asafoetida. I added them one by one for demonstration purposes, but you should really add all the whole spices at once, followed by all of the powders, and stir briskly for 30 seconds to a minute to avoid smoking out your entire kitchen. Add 4 tablespoons of tomato puree, 2 tablespoons of grated fresh ginger, 1 whole chilli, seeds removed, and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Then pour over 250 grams or 1 cup of coconut yogurt and stir it really well into the spices to create a seasoned paste. Add the 500 grams of diced fresh tomatoes and stir again until fully incorporated. Add 100 grams of finely sliced leek greens and 160 grams of rinsed and drained canned chickpeas and stir really well. Pour over 500 ml or 2 cups of hot water and simmer uncovered on medium-low for 15 minutes. Do not allow it to boil. After 15 minutes, add in your roasted vegetables, and if you're using leftovers, you'll need about 600 grams of cooked root vegetables. Cover with a lid and simmer on medium-low for a further 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, add 100 grams of washed and chopped fresh kale. Submerge the kale as best as you can into the curry sauce and don't panic that it all looks a bit too green. The kale really wilts down into the sauce once it starts to cook. Cover and continue to cook for a final 5 minutes. For the flatbreads, sift 330 grams of gluten-free, FODMAP-safe, self-raising flour into a large mixing bowl. I use the Dove's Farm brand. To the flour, add 30 grams of finely chopped pecans, 1 teaspoon of garam masala, 2 tablespoons of garlic oil and 200 ml of water. Mix everything together, then shape it lightly with your hands until it forms a wet, soft dough. You don't have to knead it, just handle it enough to bring it all together. Slice the dough evenly into quarters, then cut each quarter in half again to create 8 equal pieces. Roll each piece lightly into a ball and add a tiny splash of oil to your hands. Using the flat of your hands, press the dough into a small, round pancake shape. Add an optional sprinkle of dried crushed chili flakes if you tolerate spice and press them into the surface of the dough. Carefully flip the dough, adding more chili to taste. Pat the dough out until it's roughly 5 mm thick and about 15 cm or 6 inches in diameter. Do this for each flatbread, then cook them one by one on a dry, non-stick griddle, skillet or tower. Press the bread into the hot griddle, flipping it several times until the surface is lightly toasted. The bread will bubble slightly in places but shouldn't rise. Repeat this for all of the flatbreads, wrapping them in a clean tea towel to keep warm. This curry is thick and spicy with a definite fragrance of Christmas. I serve mine with plain boiled rice, a cucumber salad and extra coconut yogurt on the side. The flatbreads are the perfect texture for using as a vessel to scoop up mouthfuls of the curry sauce without them falling apart or turning into a soggy mess in your hands. This recipe serves 4 generous portions and the flatbreads are FODMAP safe at 2 per portion, which makes it an ideal meal for when you've got guests coming round. If you're put off by the quantity of whole spices, then simply swap these out for 2 tablespoons of your favourite FODMAP safe curry powder. I added a sprinkle of dried mint, nutritional yeast and a pinch of salt to half a cup of coconut yogurt. Feel free to generously dollop a few tablespoons of this onto your curry, as coconut yogurt has a fairly generous serving size of 125 grams. Let me know in the comments below if you're planning on turning your leftovers into this cracking Christmas curry. And if you do, don't forget to snap a picture and tag me on Instagram at The Irritable Vegan. I really hope you enjoy this and all of the festive recipes from the past month. I thank you so much for all of your support in 2019 and I'm looking forward to creating plenty more delicious recipes with you and your gut in mind in the new year. If you've got any special requests for things you'd like to see more of in 2020, leave them in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, have a very Merry Christmas and I'll speak to you soon. Bye! We're getting to that time of year again where family feasts, parties, social events and holidays are rapidly approaching. This year, give your gut the gift it deserves with Got Gut's Feast Without FODMAPs. It's your one-stop autumn and winter survival guide for all things vegan low FODMAP. From delicious recipes and menu planning to seasonal stacking and tips and tricks from fellow IBS sufferers. Feast Without FODMAPs really does include everything you might need to see you through the best and the worst of the upcoming season. Take time out from the shopping and stress to invest in yourself and make sure that this year you thrive rather than simply survive. For the same price as a couple of spice lattes, you could be on your way to a flare-up-free festive season. You'll find the link to purchase in the description box below.